Testing, 1, 2, 3, 4, testing.
On this episode of Tunnel Vision.
It is November 16th at 7:10 a.m. here at the Lapeer Post, and we're being recorded.
How you doing, Ken?
Have a seat right there.
And falsely accused people get to go to jail, and they sit in jail for their whole fucking life. I don't know a single one. Congratulations. How you feel?
My name is Avery Tatro, and you're listening to Tunnel Vision, Episode 4, Interrogation. As we know by now, in 2011, 20-year-old Andrea Eilber was found dead while house-sitting for her aunt and uncle in Michigan. Andrea's boyfriend, Casey, was convicted and jailed for this crime. We are investigating what really happened. Today we are focusing on the day that the police discovered the gruesome murder. How did officers respond to the crime scene, and what assumptions were made that charted the course of the investigation? On that early Wednesday morning in 2011, less than an hour after the police discover Andrea's body, Trooper Williams and Sukent call Casey and request that they meet. They pick him up at around 5:30 a.m. and bring him to the state police station to be interviewed. Casey says that he wants to help and signs a consent to search his phone.
Trooper Brian Reese. Nice to meet you. This is Sergeant Ron Ainsley and Sergeant Mark Reeves.
Nice to meet you, Ken.
Yeah. And is it a problem if we're recording it? No. Since we're going to interview you, just want to read you. You have the right to remain silent.
The officers read Casey his Miranda rights and then spend the first 10 minutes getting background on Casey, where he lives, works, and when he and Andrea first met. They then focus the questions on where Casey was over the past week and when he was with Andrea. Casey explains that they hung out together on Sunday afternoon for a few hours, and then Andrea drove to her Aunt Stephanie's house on Kings Mill Road for the night. They had also planned to hang out at the house on Monday night. The investigators then zero in on the communication on Monday. Casey explains how Andrea asked him to come to the house after dinner and to bring the movies. Casey describes how he found the house once he arrived, dark and with her car missing. He texted her, "Where are you?" and waited outside the home for her to answer or show up. Andrea never arrived, but Casey received a text from her phone about 15 minutes later that said, "Hey babe, gotta cancel, sorry, we'll catch you tomorrow, smiley face." The officers spend a lot of time trying to understand the timing of the night and what Casey was doing at the house. Once he says that he left to go charge his phone and wait for a response from Andrea, they test him.
Where is she now?
Like 30 times yesterday, see if her phone's even on.
Kevin, look me in the eyes. You don't have any idea where she's at? I swear to God, that's not.
And then later,
You concerned at all that you've got 3 police officers sitting around you, talking to you?
Not really. I just want to know where she is.
after an hour of questioning, the interview shifts.
I'm over there to hang out there, and I have no idea where she is.
I'm telling you right now, she's in the house and she's dead.
As Casey processes the news that he was just given, the officers presume that he's hiding information.
You know, something happened between you guys. Something got out of whack. You need to talk to us about it. Or her death. You're thinking your head no.
What happened? I don't know.
We haven't done anything to upset you except to tell you that she is dead. But we need to know what happened to her. And we need your help.
If I knew, I would tell you.
What do you think happened to her?
I have no idea. Where was she at?
Huh?
Where was she at?
She's in the house.
Where?
That's what we know right now, that she's in the house.
You're at in the house.
Where do you think she is in the house?
No idea. Why would I ask that?
We want to make sure that we give you every opportunity.
If I knew, I would tell you.
Then, officers suggest Casey was responsible for Andrea's death.
she ditched you. And it hurt. Well, it hurt you, right? Did it hurt you?
Yes.
I understand how it would hurt you. And sometimes when people get hurt, things happen.
The house was locked. I had no way of even getting in. She wasn't
Sometimes
there.
people are not always truthful to us. She could have been there. There could have been an altercation between you two out in Lakes Road. And maybe...
I was not down 5 Lakes Road.
Okay. But something could have happened in the driveway there between you and her. To believe 100% of what you're saying, but we always...
During that first morning interview, officers suggest 16 times that Casey knows what happened to Andrea, but Casey consistently answers that he has no idea what happened. Getting nowhere, they suggest he take a polygraph.
What do you think you're going to do on this polygraph? I'm going to pass it in flying colors.
Realizing they can't go any further, they wrap up and ask him about the clothes he was wearing on Monday.
Tell me what sweatpants you were wearing? What color are they?
Gray.
You know where they are?
Yep.
Where are they?
In my laundry hamper. Alabama.
And is it red?
Yep.
The t-shirt?
Yep. Laundry hamper.
After the interview, Casey is cooperative and signs a consent form to take hair samples and mouth swabs for DNA. At this point, it is clear that the officers are treating Casey as the only suspect, despite having no evidence to support it. Officers then take Casey back to his house, and when he finds his mom in her bedroom, he says Andrea is dead and slumps onto her bed. She asks him what is happening, and Casey responds that he doesn't know. As the search progresses, Casey is confined to the living room, while April is restricted to the kitchen and monitored by Trooper Ford. They are intentionally separated. Later, a friend comes over to the house, and Casey's mom asks her to go hug Casey because the troopers will not allow her to console her son. Casey and his mom, April, willingly sign consent forms to search their residence and vehicles. The officers find the clothes Casey reported earlier still in the laundry hamper and collect them all into one evidence bag. They also retrieve his shoes to test for automobile fluid that consistently leaked onto the driver's side mat of Andrea's car. While searching Casey's car, Trooper Reese finds a napkin with a red substance that he presumes to be blood, along with a small white chip that he thought was possibly a human bone fragment. As soon as Casey's dad gets word about the situation at hand, he calls his dad Carl, who gets in touch with their family business attorney, Armand Villardo, on Casey's behalf. Here's what Casey's grandpa Carl remembers about that day.
And so, yeah, and then my son, of course, is very upset too and said, Dad, we got to do something. The police take Casey in and say, think he did something to Andrea. So I immediately, thinking of nothing else, called my business lawyer, Armand Villardo, and he's in Mount Clemens, which is probably 30 miles from here, maybe 40 miles or so from Lapeer. And I said, Armand, you got to get up to Lapeer. April's insane, going crazy. You know, everybody was, because what the hell's going on? Armand jumped in his car and took off to get up to Lapeer. And that's kind of when the whole thing started, with the police giving Armand the runaround, refusing to let him see Casey, wouldn't let him talk to him on the phone, which all started with denying a person's right to an attorney. Because obviously the first thing the attorney would have said is, don't be polite, but don't speak to the police. Don't tell them anything until I get there. In fact, the one policeman who got on the phone said, how do I know you're even an attorney? He came up here, went to the police station. The police started giving him a runaround. Oh, he's in Maiden City. No, he's in Saginaw. We're not sure where he's at. Because that's when the detective was taking him to Flint under the theory that, well, they've got hardwire over there so we can tape the interview.
While at home, April speaks with Mr. Villardo and tries to get Casey to speak with him as well. However, officers don't allow it since Casey is being detained. They later explained that this was an active homicide investigation and that they were controlling the scene while evidence was collected and the investigation continued.
She says, I'm talking to a lawyer. I have a lawyer on the phone. I don't know if she said Casey, but she's looking at him and holding the phone, holding it out and saying, I want you to talk to him, referring to the person on the phone.
Was Casey in custody at that point in time?
He was not in custody, but I was detaining him at that point.
What was the purpose of detaining him at that point?
At that point in time, I had found this biological, which I believe was blood in his vehicle, which in my mind made him a potential suspect, and I was not letting him use the phone.
In fairness, this biological substance that you believed was a biological substance, you came to learn at a later time when Reeves and Ainsley came back. That was presumptively tested, and it was not DNA, biological, or any blood, correct?
This is correct.
But at the point in time before you got it tested, you believed it to be possibly that?
Yes.
What, again, would be the purpose? What do you mean by detaining it?
Well, I was basically trying to protect our investigation, and if he uses the phone, he could possibly be talking to another suspect. I didn't know who was on the other end of that phone. So basically at that point, I was just not letting him use the phone.
Another group of officers arrive at the Grondin house and inform Trooper Reese that the napkin and white chip were tested at the crime lab and turned out not to be biological evidence of any kind. Still suspicious of Casey, however, the officers want him to take a polygraph test and sit for a specialized interview, which is another way of saying an intense interrogation. Casey's mom asks him, "Are you sure you want to do this?" And Casey replies, "I didn't do anything. I want to go take this. I want to get it over with." He then hugs his mom, and while crying, he says, "Mom, I'm never going to see her again." During the drive to the station, a disturbing pattern of behavior emerges from the officers. Detective Reeves is notified by dispatch that the family attorney has called the station trying to reach Casey and the officers. He then receives a direct call on his cell phone.
Can you tell us about those calls made from your office to Detective Sergeant Reeves?
Well, I contacted Detective Reeves at that time and quickly introduced myself. This is Armand Villardo. I'm Kenneth Grondin's attorney. I told him I did not want him polygraphed. I want to be able to speak to him and explain his rights. That's what I told him. Then I heard a click.
Villardo calls back, and the call goes straight to voicemail. Detective Reeves then tells Detective Ainsley not to answer his phone. This pattern continues throughout the day. Reeves tells multiple people that Casey's attorney is attempting to reach him and that he isn't answering his phone. Fellow detectives testify to this at trial. In fact, Lieutenant Dwyer testifies that Ainsley told him to hurry because the window for an interview was going to close fairly quickly and that they wanted to get an interview done prior to any type of attorney representation. Over the course of the day, Casey's attorney makes 26 calls to law enforcement, leaves 15 voicemail messages, and faxes a letter to the station detailing his concerns about Casey's treatment by law enforcement and his lack of access to his client. Casey is never informed that his attorney is trying to reach him. Lieutenant David Dwyer, who had specialist training in the Reed interrogation techniques, is asked by the Michigan State Police to conduct an interview with Casey that afternoon. In the video, we see Casey enter the room, sit in the chair, and pull the small garbage can in front of him, presumably because he is expecting to vomit.
Casey, is it okay if I call you Casey? I'll call you Casey if you call me Dave. Sure. Alright. Casey, I'm going to ask you a series of questions, and then I'm just going to write down your answers, okay? Because I'm going to kind of go through your rights. I'm going to go through the formal part. Then we're just going to kind of just talk man to man, and I'm going to get a lot of background about you. All right? So I want you just to take a deep breath and blow it out for me. Can you do that? All right.
Dwyer proceeds to read Casey his Miranda rights, and then go through a set of questions and answers to confirm that Casey understands his rights.
You're obviously an intelligent man, but I want to make sure you know all of your rights, okay? When can you have an attorney? Anytime. That's right. Can you have an attorney anytime you want, including right now? Yes. Do you think you can use my telephone free of charge to call an attorney anytime you want? Yes.
Then, Dwyer makes a series of interesting statements to Casey.
Do you realize that if I was called into court to testify about what you and I said here today, they would place me under oath to tell the complete truth? Yes. Would you want me to tell the truth, or would you want me to tell a lie? Truth. But I'm a man of integrity. I'm going to tell the truth whether it helps or hurts you. Do you understand that? Or whether it helps or hurts the prosecutor.
Dwyer essentially informs Casey that he will be truthful. His wording is vague and confusing and borders on misleading. This issue will be a major focus in part 2 of this episode. Dwyer continues by asking Casey about his background, medical history, and things that would affect his health or mental state in the last 24 hours.
Do you have ulcers?
Not that I know.
A heart condition? Diabetes? Emphysema? Asthma? How many hours do you sleep average?
6 to 8.
How much did you get last night?
I haven't even slept.
No sleep?
No.
Later, Dwyer steps out of the room, and the audio recorder picks up his private comments to detectives.
But what I don't like that he hasn't slept all night. I mean, but it is what it is.
Here, Dwyer is expressing that his lack of sleep could either affect his test performance or the admissibility of the interview in a court trial. After about an hour of explanations, random stories, and instructions, Dwyer administers the test questions to Casey.
Did you do anything to cause Andrea's death?
No.
Did you do anything to cause Andrea's death in that house?
No.
Did you kill Andrea?
No.
Dwyer then explains the test results to Casey, first indicating that most of his answers had no indications of stress, and then this.
So what I know is that you're not bad, okay? That you're not the type of person that we throw the book at, all right? But what I also know is that what's clear is that you caused her death, okay?
I did not.
Yeah, so
I didn't.
the investigation shows that you did, and now the polygraph shows that you did.
How did the investigation?
The investigation shows that you did. That's why you're here.
No, how? They said I had nothing.
No, they do. I mean,
What did I have?
I'm not going into evidence with you, okay? I'm not going into evidence with you. The reason that you're here, okay, is because they were concerned that you did it. The investigation leans toward you, and now I gave you a polygraph, and now it clearly shows it. So I need to know why a good person is wrong.
For the next 30 minutes, Lieutenant Dwyer accuses Casey of killing Andrea, repeating themes over and over. At one point, he even brags, saying, "This thing is great. I'm the best in town. I don't make mistakes like this." Despite having no evidence at all, he tells Casey that the homicide investigation points to him multiple times.
The investigation shows that you did. The investigation leans toward you. The investigation shows that you did. And the evidence shows that you did. Well, the investigation shows that you did. But when I asked you, did you do anything to cause her death, you didn't forget. Played over in your head, you couldn't push it out. So it just kept going and going and going. Yeah. You're wrong. Look at me. You can't hide from me.
I'm not.
In another strange moment, Dwyer whispers to Casey in an apparent psychological manipulation.
But look at me. It's pretty clear you're responsible for this. No, it is clear. How? Because you killed her.
He tells Casey that he's lying at least 12 times.
You're a man. You have to tell the truth now. I think you're faking. You haven't told 100% truth. What did you not tell the truth about? I don't believe you. So tell me the truth. Well, because you've lied.
Dwyer tells Casey at least 48 times that he killed Andrea.
I do think you killed her. But you just snapped. I'm telling you something you did do. Look at me, you did. Somehow I accidentally killed her. Alright? I know that you killed her. But you didn't kill her in the house. And maybe you killed her somewhere else. Yeah, you did. All I know is that you killed her.
Despite Dwyer's repeated accusations, he fails to extract a confession and signs Casey out at 3:45 p.m. They are seen leaving the interrogation room, only to return a few minutes later. Thinking he was done with the questioning, Casey eventually breaks down under the intense pressure and constant allegations.
Alright. The detectives, I contacted them. Spoke with them. They're willing to go to bat for you. It's an accident. Alright, you were normal. You're not a bad person. Okay, you just made a mistake. You did do it. Yeah, you're not a bad guy.
Dwyer eventually gives up and stands up to leave the room. Casey shifts in his chair to do the same, and Dwyer barks at Casey to stay where you are. Casey immediately complies. This subtle interaction speaks volumes about the power dynamics at play, and whether Casey felt he had the agency to stop the interview, demand an attorney, or leave the room. Dwyer confers with the detectives in the observation room and tells Sergeant Reeves that he doesn't believe Casey will reveal anything. Reeves says, "I'm going to talk to him."
How you doing, man? Not good? What happened? You want a hug? You alright? I'll give you a hug. I don't want a hug. I don't want a hug. Because I don't want you to think that I'm trying to take you down.
Reeves speaks for about 5 minutes about seeking the truth, making sure they have the right suspect, and never trying to convict an innocent person. Then he directs his attack at Casey.
Yes. 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 Yes, you did. That's my opinion. From my investigation and the guys with me, that you're responsible for her death. You can twist it any way you want. You can say the house was locked, and it probably was locked at some point. You know where the key was at. You left it on the counter. You know where the sliding door was at. You know where she was at, down in the sports room, down in the basement, in the game room. You know where she was sitting at on the couch. You know where the pillow was at, and where the newspaper and yeah, you do. Please don't sit there and say no. Yes,
I'm not lying.
Yes, you are lying to me. Yes, you are. That's not true.
You don't believe me, yeah?
That's not true. You were in the house Monday.
No, I wasn't.
Yes, you were.
No, I wasn't.
You were, Ken. And you know you were. And you were down in the lower level with her. You know you were. Yeah, you were there. Yes, you were. Yes.
No, I wasn't.
Yes, you were. Ken, you were there. You need to tell me what happened that caused
I would tell you if I knew.
There. You were there. Yes, you were.
You are literally telling me something that isn't true.
You were there Monday. You know you were there. You were upset with her.
No, I wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
No, I wasn't.
Yes, you were.
See?
You're going to tell me that some accident happened because that's what you said earlier.
No, I didn't. When did I say that?
Okay, what did she do to herself? How do you want me to put it down on paper?
While the videotaped interview continues for another 24 minutes, the audio portion does not. The video recorder did not have a working microphone, so the detectives used a handheld digital recorder to record the interrogation audio. At about 2 hours and 20 minutes, the recorder beeps in warning as it runs out of battery, and then eventually cuts out.
You tell them what you think.
And they can think what they want. But the point of it is that your interview, your polygraph, and talking to Sergeant Dwyer have all not been good. Had you passed this polygraph, you'd been walking out the door with a smile on your face. But today that did not happen. You have to find a way in your heart. Let's go down the road, whatever road you want to go down on this.
As the video continues, we can see Sergeant Reeves seated just a couple feet away from Casey and leaning in towards him. Casey is visibly agitated, repeating the same motions from earlier, fidgeting in his chair, explaining the timeline with his hands, and shaking his head no over and over. He is clearly frustrated and does not agree with what Sergeant Reeves is saying. Near the end of the video, Reeves can be seen tapping a pad of paper and pointing to it while speaking for an extended period of time. He then picks it up, tears off a sheet, places it down on the table with a pen, and motions to Casey, "Here you go." Casey then repositions his chair in front of the desk and writes the following statement. On Monday, November 14th, at about 8 p.m., I arrived at Andrea's aunt's house. All of the upstairs lights were off, so I went downstairs where some lights were on. In the laundry room, I found my girlfriend Andrea laying on the ground, not breathing. I did not want her family to know she did this, so I moved the items she used to make it look like she did not do this to herself. I left the house afterward and went home where my mom, my brother, and friend Cody were. They asked me why I was home, and I did not want to tell them what she had done. Kenneth C. Grondin III. This statement sounds very familiar. Casey essentially copies down the script that Sergeant Reeves had provided to him just minutes before.
I'll put it down on paper however you want it to go down on paper. You know what? Maybe she killed herself. Maybe she committed suicide and you just moved some stuff after the fact. Is that possible? You know what? Now that you're talking that way, I'm thinking that's possible, that she could have hurt herself because she was depressed over her mother's death 4 years ago, and you hid some stuff. You hid something that maybe she used to hurt herself.
In the video, Casey is seen handing the statement to Reeves, passing it back over his left shoulder without looking, as if in a defiant gesture. And the video abruptly ends. 5 months later, at the evidentiary hearing, Casey's defense attorney questions Lieutenant Dwyer and Sergeant Reeves about the statement Casey gave.
So the written statement and story he gave, you did not believe to be true?
Correct.
And you confronted him and said, this is not true?
Correct.
In fact, he recanted that to you, did he not?
True.
Tell me about that.
He said, it isn't true. You're right. I lied to you guys. And that pretty much ended it.
Did he tell you, I lied because you just kept pressuring me?
Not me, but he did say that he told Detective Reeves what he thought he wanted him to hear. Something similar to that.
After 4 hours of being there, from 1:45 until 6:25, about 4 hours and 40 minutes?
True.
So his last words to you were, I told Detective Reeves what I thought he wanted to hear.
Something. Again, that's not the exact words, but something similar. That was the meaning behind the words that he was saying, essentially.
Would it be fair to say that Detective Dwyer came in and challenged him with the results of his specialized interview?
Yes.
What was Casey's reaction to that?
Not good.
Describe it.
He got mad. He was upset that he was being accused of this statement, and he said, everything I've said is a lie. You're not going to find my fingerprints anywhere.
Coming up on Tunnel Vision.
There's rampant contamination in this case, and there's extensive coercion. And, it's mind-boggling that this confession wasn't tossed out by a judge before it went to trial.
Mom? Hello? They're keeping me here tonight. Did they give you a polygraph? Yeah, and I failed it. What?
This case is riddled with reasonable doubt, and it's pretty clear that Casey had nothing to do with this.
You've been listening to Tunnel Vision Episode 4, Interrogation. If you have any information that could help with the investigation of this case, contact us directly at tunnelvisionseries@gmail.com. Tunnel Vision is written, produced, and hosted by Avery Tatro, editing by Michael Tatro. To keep up with new episodes, subscribe to Tunnel Vision on Apple Podcasts. Original music is by Michael Tatro and Suno AI.